I hate him. Seriously. Even when he's quiet, his smug face is louder than his team. The conservatory is old enough to have memories. The kind that hum in the wood when you press a key. Dust and polish hang in the air like a stubborn cord. I lower the fallboard of the Steinway, adjust the bench, and try not to breathe in the squeak of sneakers and the rhythm of basketballs pounding the gym wall next door. Thud thud thud. Squeak. Laughter. A whistle shrills and ricochets down the corridor like a wrong note. I set my metronome for slow work and start with scales to loosen my fingers. My left hand trembles. Not enough for anyone to notice, just enough for me to hate it. The sound swells into the room, bronze and honest, but the noise from the gym keeps shoving its way into the measure like a drunk crashing a string quartet. The door swings open without a knock. Of course it does. Asher fills the doorway like it owes him rent. Tall, shoulders that could bench press bad decisions, black hair damp with sweat. There's that grin, the one that says he's never lost a bet he made out loud. His team mills in the hall behind him, a collective of loud shadows. "Hey, maestro," he says, leaning on the frame. "We're not at a funeral. You can play louder." I let a chord hang, then kill it with the pedal. "Congratulations on inventing noise," I say, keeping my voice even. "When you write it down, it's called a score." He laughs. "I'm an artist too. I make layups." Thrilling, I deadpan. "Do you perform at children's parties, or do they still have standards?" A couple of his teammates snicker. Asher's grin tilts but doesn't drop. "We'll be done in an hour. You'll outlast us, right?" "I always do." I turn back to the keys. I don't look at him again, because if I do, I'll give him the satisfaction of being seen. He lingers anyway, because that's what he does. Occupies spaces like he owns them and then somehow offers you a chair. "What's the piece?" "My Sanity," I say. "In F minor. Sounds like it needs more defense." "Get out, Asher." He salutes lazily and finally leaves, whistling something almost in tune. The door swings shut, and the room exhales. I hit the opening of my own composition. Spare right hand, wide left, low octaves holding up a line that keeps trying to run. It's the only way I can say what I don't feel allowed to say out loud, that being small doesn't mean being weak, that being quiet doesn't mean not hearing everything. Thud thud thud. The gym answers back like it's arguing with me. There's a list I keep in my head called Reasons Alphas Are Terrible, and Asher insists on auditioning for every role. Loud, entitled, untouchable. They never ask permission. They assume it was already given. Administration loves them. Professors excuse them. People smile and forgive them like it's a sport. I stopped waiting for fair a long time ago. I flex my fingers and shake out my wrists. I do not think about the small plastic case in my bag, the hairline crack I noticed yesterday and pretended not to see. I do not think about the fact that the pharmacy is back-ordered, and the campus clinic knows me by my last name. I do not think about heat, or cycles, or the way the word omega tastes like a dare on somebody else's tongue. I am a student, a pianist, a composer. I am not a headline. I am not a rumor. The piece turns a corner, and the hall goes, blessedly, a little quieter. In the pocket of silence, I hear the rain begin against the high windows. It taps shyly at first, then gathers itself into a rhythm that makes more sense than basketballs ever will. The door opens again, softer this time. Asher steps in alone, a water bottle dangling from his fingers. "Before you tell me to get out," he says, "I told them to keep the drills off the wall for 10 minutes. Coach owes me, and I called it in." I blink. "Why?" "Because you're actually good," he says simply. "And because my head hurts, and your music is the only thing here that's in tune." The line I'm playing falters. He looks at me like he can hear the mistake even though he can't read a note. Or maybe he can. I don't like not knowing what he can do. 10 minutes, he repeats, backing out. "Don't waste them, maestro." He's gone before I can come up with a weaponized insult. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, how cliché Lynn, and start over. The quiet is a gift I don't want from him. I take it anyway. By the time the 10 minutes are up, I've smoothed the rough edges and found the heartbeat of the thing. The door stays closed. The gym floods back in with a wave of sound, but it bothers me less. The music is bigger than the noise now. When I finish, my hands are warm, and my throat is tight for no good reason. I reach for my bag and check the little case, pretending it's a habit and not a compulsion. The crack in the lid has spiderwebbed a fraction wider. I tap it against my palm like that will fix physics. It doesn't. Great, I mutter to the empty room. Perfect. The hallway has emptied out. Rain ghosts along the windows, and the exit sign throws a red bruise across the floor. I should head back to the dorm. I should email Professor Hart about the revised cadenza. I should do anything except stand here in the afterimage of a quiet I didn't earn. Voices drift from down the corridor. Asher's laugh is impossible to misplace. No, seriously, he's saying, softer than he was before. He can play. Something in my chest tightens like a string pulled too far. I hate that the words land where they do. I hate that they matter. I hate that they sound like honesty, not charm. I shoulder my bag, wipe a smear of rosin dust off the lid that isn't there, and step into the hallway. Asher turns when he hears me. For a second there's no grin, just a brief unreadable neutrality. His eyes flick to the case in my hand. I tuck it away. Good practice? He asks. Like the world is made of easy questions. Tragic, I say. But I'll live. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. That leaves. What, exactly? He laughs, stepping aside to let me pass. It's the smallest thing, a space offered without a speech, and I walk through it like it doesn't mean anything. On the stairs, my pulse trips over itself. Heat licks the back of my neck and then recedes, like the building exhaled onto my skin. I swallow hard and keep moving. It's nothing. It's stress, lack of sleep, the weather, the way the gym turns the air into soup. It's not what the cracked case in my bag suggests. By the time I push out into the rain, I've decided 3 things. 1. I hate Asher. 2. I hate the gym wall more. 3. Everything is under control. The vial in my pocket is warm against my palm. I pretend that means nothing at all. The rain sounds different tonight. Heavier, like it knows something I don't. The practice room is half dark because the motion sensor forgot I exist, and I didn't wave hard enough to make it care. The single lamp above the piano throws a narrow pool of gold onto the keys. Everything else is shadows and window glass streaked with rain. I've been here for hours, supposedly working on my senior recital piece, but my mind won't stay put. It keeps circling the same fact. The crack in my inhibitor vial isn't getting smaller. I pull it from my bag for the 3rd time in an hour, checking it like maybe physics took pity on me when I wasn't looking. The hairline fracture has split another millimeter across the side. When I shake it gently, the liquid inside glints back at me, wrong and mocking. It's fine, I tell myself. It will hold. It doesn't feel fine. The warmth started in my wrists 20 minutes ago. Barely noticeable, like standing too close to a radiator. Now it's in my face, my neck, crawling under my collar. The air tastes thicker, like the room forgot how to breathe. I sit straighter, push my palms against my thighs. It's nothing. Stress. Practice fatigue. A late dinner and too much coffee. But my pulse skips and refuses to settle. I play the opening chord of the piece again, harder than it needs. The sound booms into the empty space, rich and full, and completely wrong for what I feel. The warmth doesn't care about music. The warmth is winning. By the time the rain has become a steady roar against the windows, I'm sweating through my shirt. My hands shake on the keys. My stomach is in knots so tight I can barely breathe around them. It's been years since I lost control like this. Not since I learned how to schedule, how to hide, how to keep everything tamped down with chemistry and planning and careful lies. Now the lies are melting right out of me with every drop of sweat. I stand too quickly. The room tilts. My knees lock, and I grip the edge of the piano until the blur sharpens into shapes again. My bag lies open on the chair, useless. I don't even have the broken vial anymore. I left it in the dorm trash can like throwing it away meant throwing away the problem. My breath sounds like it belongs to someone else. I need water. Air. Something. Anything. The door opens before I can decide whether to crawl to it or just dissolve into the floorboards. Liam? It's him. Of course it's him. Asher stands in the doorway, rain dripping from his hair onto his hoodie, a plastic bottle of water in his hand like the universe gave him stage directions I didn't read. I'm fine, I say automatically. The words scrape. He doesn't look convinced. His eyes flick over me, sweat white-knuckle grip on the piano, the way I'm half doubled over like the floor might rise up and swallow me. You're not fine. He steps in and kicks the door shut behind him. The noise from the hallway dies like someone cut the wire. I said I'm fine. Yeah, and you look like hell. Sit down before you fall down. The room spins when I let go of the piano. So I sit mostly because gravity wins the argument for him. Asher crosses to the windows first, cranks them closed against the rain, then shuts off the harsh overhead lights so only the lamp above the piano stays on. The shadows pull in close, but the air feels less like it's pressing on my chest now. He crouches in front of me, holding out the water bottle. I hesitate before taking it because my hands are shaking and I don't want him to see. He sees anyway. Drink, he says quietly, not ordering. Just steady. I sip, because my throat is raw and dry and I need it, because he's here and watching, because I can't do anything else right now. The warmth keeps curling under my skin, but it's not as sharp as before. The bottle shakes in my hand when I lower it. I called campus health, he says after a moment. They said if it's an inhibitor problem, you just need to ride it out somewhere safe. So I'm staying. No, I snap. Too fast. You don't need to. I'm not leaving you like this. His tone doesn't rise, but it cuts through anyway. I'm staying until you come back to yourself. That's it. He settles on the floor like the decision's already made, back against the piano bench, long legs stretched out in front of him. He keeps his hands in plain sight on his knees, like he knows I'm counting the inches between us. I don't need. Yeah, he says. You do. And I'm not going anywhere. So drink your water and hate me later. The lamp hums softly above us. My pulse thunders in my ears. I wait for the usual grin, the cocky smirk, the loud voice demanding center stage. None of it comes. He just sits there, steady as the floor, like the noise he carries everywhere else doesn't fit in this room. I hate that it helps. I hate that the words I'm not leaving land like something I want to believe. I tip my head back against the wall and close my eyes because the shame burns hotter than the heat crawling through me. Because he wasn't supposed to see this. Because I don't know what it means that he did and didn't run. Rain lashes the windows. The bottle sweats in my hand. Asher doesn't move. I'll stay, he says again, softer this time. Like a promise. Until you come back. I hate that the relief feels bigger than the fear. By the time I drag myself back to the dorm, the rain's eased into a drizzle that smells like wet pavement and exhaustion. The hallway's the usual chaos. Doors half open, music bleeding out in 3 genres at once. Somebody laughing too loud near the vending machines. I make it 3 steps toward my room before the trap springs. So, my neighbor says, leaning in her doorway like she's been waiting all night. Sophie, beta, law student, professional gossip collector. Her hair's up in a messy bun that probably took effort to look that careless. Want to tell me why campus basketball royalty was seen carrying water bottles into your practice room like some kind of sweaty Florence Nightingale? I shoulder my bag higher. No. Come on, she says, eyes gleaming. You, him, dark room, dramatic storm outside. Please tell me you at least kissed? I choke on air. What? No. Absolutely not. Uh-huh. She tilts her head like she's examining a witness. Maybe you secretly like him. I snort so hard it's undignified. I would rather date my metronome. At least it knows what timing is. She grins. Your metronome doesn't bring you water in the middle of the night. Neither should he. Sophie sighs like I'm disappointing her personally. Fine, be mysterious. But the rumor mill is faster than Wi-Fi, Liam. Just saying. I escape before she can start quoting imaginary headlines about us. Morning comes too early. My professor gives me a look halfway through my piece in studio class. The kind that means something's different. and I can't tell if I like it yet. I keep playing. The notes feel rawer, closer to the skin. When I finish, he nods once. More heart this time, he says. Keep it. Great. Exactly what I need. People noticing things. I run into Asher in the dorm corridor later, because of course I do. He's leaning against the wall scrolling his phone, still in practice clothes, hair damp from the shower. Normally this is when the snark would fly, he'd smirk, I'd roll my eyes, the universe would keep spinning. Instead, he just says, "Hey." I pause. "Hey." The silence stretches. People walk past us and we just stand there like someone cut the script pages out of our usual scene. "You good?" he asks finally. "Fine," I say. "Thanks for, last night." He nods. "No problem." And that's it. No teasing, no grand speeches, just a small, awkward pause before he pushes off the wall and heads downstairs. I'm left staring at the empty hallway like an idiot. Later, at the cafe near the conservatory, Sophie slides into the chair across from me without asking. "So," she says over her latte, "when are you introducing me to your new boyfriend?" I groan. "He's not." "Sure," she says, grinning. "You just look less like death warmed over today." Maybe love really does heal. I drop my head onto the table. "Please let the espresso machine drown me." Sophie laughs so loud half the cafe turns to look. Somewhere under my embarrassment though, I realize the professor was right. The music did feel different today. And I hate that I know exactly why. The rehearsal hall is empty when I let myself in. Even with the house lights down, the space feels awake. Rows of seats rising like a dark tide, the stage caught in soft pools of amber from the work lights. The air smells like varnish and dust and something older. Like all the music ever played here never really left. I like practicing at night. No professors, no classmates, no audience except the one I choose, which lately is no one. Tonight, I pull the cover off the Steinway and set my bag down. The silence is perfect, thick enough to hear my own heartbeat if I hold still. I barely get through the first page before the door creaks open. Of course, Asher steps inside like the building invited him. He's in a hoodie, hair damp again, sneakers squeaking faintly against the floor. He doesn't say anything, just glances at me, then at the empty seats, like checking for witnesses. I pause mid-phrase. "You lost? Jim's that way." He shakes his head, crosses the stage and drops into the seat next to mine without asking. "Relax, maestro. I'm just here to listen." I stare at him. "You listen? Shocking, right?" He leans back, long legs stretched out, eyes on the keys. "I can even sit still if it helps." That would be a first. I turn back to the music, trying to ignore the fact that 6 foot something of loud trouble is suddenly 2 feet away and very, very quiet. I start again. The hall soaks up the sound, warm and clean. The notes climb and fall. The melody catches somewhere under my ribs the way it always does when I stop thinking and just play. Asher doesn't move. He doesn't talk. He just sits there, watching like the music might spill answers if he listens hard enough. When the last chord fades, he exhales slowly. "Huh." I side-eye him. "That a music critique? That's me not talking so you can keep going." I blink. "You actually do know how to be quiet. Incredible." He smirks faintly but doesn't rise to the bait. The silence stretches, but it isn't the awkward kind. It's settled, like the air itself is holding its breath, waiting for whatever comes next. I flip to a different piece, smoothing the pages flat. Asher leans forward to look at the title, and when one corner starts to curl back, he reaches out automatically to hold it down. His fingers brush mine. It's nothing, barely a touch, but the jolt is ridiculous, like static through my whole arm. I pull back too fast. "I can handle the paper, thanks." "Right," he says easily, like he didn't feel anything at all. I hate that my pulse disagrees. I keep playing because not playing would mean thinking, and thinking is dangerous lately. Asher stays where he is, elbows on his knees now, head tipped slightly like he's trying to memorize the shape of the sound. The usual grin is gone, so is the teasing. He looks different. Like someone who belongs in this quiet instead of breaking it. The weird part? I don't mind. By the third piece, my shoulders have unlocked, and the tight coil under my ribs has started to loosen. The heat from the other night isn't here, not the same way, but something else is low and steady, like the piano's low notes humming under everything. When I finally stop, Asher glances at me. Better? I realize my breathing's evened out. My pulse isn't in my throat anymore. Yeah, I admit. Better. He nods once. Like that's what he came for. For a second, the hall feels too big and too small at the same time. He doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't fill the space with anything except the quiet he promised. And for the first time and longer than I want to admit, I don't feel like running from it. I didn't plan on ending up at Asher's house. One minute we were leaving campus after rehearsal. The next he was offering a ride because the buses were delayed, and somehow that turned into, we'll just stop by my place real quick. My mom made pie. I should have said no. Instead, I followed him through the gate into a yard that smelled like late summer. Cut grass, something blooming. Near the fence, and under all of it, the warm, impossible scent of apple pie drifting from the open windows. The house is small but bright, with a wraparound porch, and wind chimes that scatter soft notes into the evening air. Definitely not the kind of place I imagined for someone like Asher, who walks through the world like it's a stadium built just for him. Inside, everything feels lived in. Family photos on the walls, a stack of old magazines on the coffee table, curtains that probably have a story. And then there's her. She comes out of the kitchen wiping her hands on a dish towel, hair streaked with silver but pulled back like she means business. Her smile is easy though, the kind that makes you stand up straighter without realizing. Asher, she says, giving him a quick once-over like she's checking for injuries. Then her eyes land on me. And this must be the musician. I glance at Asher. He forgot to mention he talks about me. Liam, I say, shaking her hand before I can overthink it. Sorry to intrude. Nonsense, she says, waving us toward the kitchen. Pie's cooling. No one intruding where there's pie. Asher groans quietly. She feeds everyone like this, he mutters as we follow her. Don't take it personally. The kitchen smells like cinnamon and sugar and a little bit of heaven. She cuts generous slices while asking about school, music, whether Asher is keeping out of trouble. He doesn't answer that last part. At some point she says almost casually, if he's angry, it just means he feels too much. He gets that from his father. Never knew how to be calm about people he cares about. Asher pretends to be very busy with his pie. I glance at him, then back at her. Something about the way she says it, soft but certain, lodges under my ribs. Because yeah, Asher is loud and reckless and sometimes unbearable. But now I remember him in the practice room, quiet and steady, waiting out the storm I didn't want him to see. Maybe angry doesn't always mean dangerous. Maybe loud doesn't always mean careless. Maybe I don't know him at all. When we leave, she sends us off with the rest of the pie wrapped in foil, and a smile that feels like it sees more than it says. And I can't stop hearing her words on the drive back. If he's angry, it just means he feels too much. By Monday, the whispers have grown legs. The conservatory's hallways are narrow enough to carry sound whether you want them to or not, and apparently half the student body has decided that my personal life is now public property. I hear it between classes, saw them leaving together. Basketball guy, the loud one? You think they're actually... My name keeps surfacing in sentences that drop off when I walk by. Eyes flick toward me, then away. The way people do when they want you to notice but not really. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. Sophie corners me before harmony class, eyes bright with the kind of curiosity that only spells trouble. So, she says, leaning against the lockers like a reporter who already knows the story, you and Mr. Muscles are what now? Study partners? Secret lovers? A very niche reality show? I drop my bag with a thud. We're nothing. He gave me a ride home. That's all. Uh-huh, she says, drawing out the syllables. Because rumors say... Rumors, I cut in, also say the practice rooms are haunted. And Professor Hart used to be a rock star. I'm not sure either's true, She smirks. Still, you looked cozy. I rub a hand over my face. Sophie, for the love of coffee, please find a new hobby. Fine, she says, but don't act surprised when the whole conservatory thinks you're his tragic love affair by midweek. It happens faster than that. By lunchtime, someone's added fuel to the fire. A second-hand sighting of us at Asher's house has turned into meeting the parents, which has turned into Liam's secret boyfriend by the time I pass the practice wing. I keep my head down, hoping it'll burn out on its own. It doesn't. 2 students from the string department make a loud joke as I walk by, something about basketball players branching out into the arts. Asher hears it before I do. He's coming down the hall in his usual effortless way, sweat still drying on his collar from morning practice. He stops when he catches the tail end of the comment, eyes narrowing just enough to silence the immediate area. Say that again, he says, calm but sharp enough to cut through the chatter. The guy laughs like it's harmless. Relax, man. We're just... One more word, Asher says, voice dropping, and I'll personally carry you out of this hallway and leave you in the parking lot. Want to test me? The silence that follows is almost impressive. The 2 students mutter something about being late for rehearsal and vanish. Asher turns to me, still tense. People need to learn when to shut up. Great, I mutter. Now they'll just talk louder when you're not around. He frowns. I'm not letting them run their mouths about you. I didn't ask you to defend me. Yeah, well, he says, softer now. I'm doing it anyway. By evening, the whole day feels like it's been under a spotlight I didn't ask for. Sophie tries to joke about it when I get back to the dorm, but I barely answer. Because this was exactly what I didn't want. Attention, rumors, people staring like I'm half of a story I didn't write. Asher might be able to shrug it off like it's just noise, but I'm the one living in it. And for the first time, I wonder if letting him stay that night was the start of something I can't stop now, even if I want to. The conservatory looks different at night. The hallways are empty, the usual chaos replaced by a hush that feels like the building is holding its breath. The rehearsal hall glows faintly at the end of the corridor, one warm light left on above the stage like someone knew I'd be here. I slip inside, set my bag on the first row of seats, and pull the piano bench out. The keys are cool under my fingertips. I start to play before I can overthink it. The notes rise into the empty space, clean and slow. They sound different at night, less like performance, more like confession. The melody isn't the one Professor Hart assigned, it's something I wrote weeks ago and never showed anyone. I almost jump when the door opens behind me. Asher steps in, quiet for once. He doesn't announce himself, just walks down the aisle and onto the stage like it belongs to him. He drops into the seat beside mine but says nothing. I keep playing because stopping would mean acknowledging the way my pulse just stumbled. When the last chord fades, he leans back on his hands, looking up at the dark rafters. Didn't mean to interrupt. You didn't, I say, voice low. He glances at me then, eyes unreadable in the half-light. I can sit here, he says slowly, and not touch you. If that's what you want. My throat goes tight. He doesn't move closer, doesn't break the moment with some joke or grin. He just waits, steady and calm, like he did that night in the practice room when everything fell apart. The silence hums louder than the music. Finally, I say, and if it's not what I want? His gaze holds mine. Then you have to tell me. The air feels heavier now, but not the way it did when my chest was full of panic and heat and fear. This weight is different. It settles instead of smothering. I don't answer right away. My fingers hover over the keys like they might have the words I don't. Asher shifts, slow enough that I could stop him if I wanted. He reaches out, not for me, but for the sheet music I abandoned on the stand. He straightens the page, fingertips brushing mine as he sets it back in place. That tiny touch snaps something inside me I didn't know was wound so tight. I turn toward him before I can think too hard. He freezes, close enough now that I can feel his breath on my cheek. Liam, he says softly, like my name itself is a question. I don't pull back. The first kiss isn't cinematic. It's hesitant, the kind where neither of us knows if the other might change their mind at the last second. His hand hovers near my shoulder like he's ready to retreat if I flinch. I don't. It's warm, and awkward and steady all at once, like we're both learning the same language at the same time. When he finally pulls back, he doesn't go far. His forehead rests lightly against mine. "Still okay?" he asks. Somewhere in the middle of the second kiss, his hand finds the edge of the piano bench where I'm gripping too hard. His fingers cover mine, careful, like he's asking another silent question. The weight of his palm against my knuckles is ridiculous, light, almost nothing. And yet it roots me in place harder than anything else could have. I don't realize until later how tense I was, waiting for the moment to turn into something I didn't want. It never does. He keeps every movement small, slow, like he's giving me room to breathe, like he knows I need it. At some point my shoulder brushes his, then stays there. His arm comes around me, hesitant at first, then firmer when I don't move away. It's the first time in years I've let someone close without waiting for the other shoe to drop. The music sheets slide off the stand at some point, landing in a soft heap on the floor. Neither of us moves to pick them up. The only sound left is our breathing, and the faint hum of the stage lights. When we finally stop, the world feels too quiet. Asher doesn't speak right away. He just keeps one hand over mine on the bench, thumb brushing absent circles against my skin. I wait for the panic that usually comes when people get too close. It doesn't. Instead, there's this slow warmth spreading through my chest, steady and unfamiliar. Safe. That's what it feels like. Like for the first time in longer than I can remember, I'm not waiting for everything to fall apart the second I stop holding it together. Asher leans his head back, eyes closed. "You keep playing like that," he says softly, "and I'm never leaving this hall." I let out a shaky laugh I didn't know was there. Maybe I don't want him to. It happens on a Thursday. One minute I'm walking into the practice wing, juggling sheet music and coffee like usual. The next the hallway goes quiet in that sharp, unnatural way that means something's changed. I don't hear the words right away, but I see the looks. By the time I make it to the piano room, I've caught enough pieces of conversation to stitch the story together. Someone told about me, about the inhibitor, the cycle, all the things I worked years to keep out of the conservatory rumor mill. Now they know. Professor Hart calls me into his office before my afternoon lesson. He's calm about it, too calm, the way people get when they're trying not to spook you. "Liam," he says, folding his hands on the desk, "I heard some talk going around about your status." I hate the word. Like I'm a legal document instead of a person. "I want you to know," he continues, "this doesn't change anything about your place here. Your talent speaks louder than gossip." I nod stiffly. "Thanks." But when I leave his office, the hallway feels different. 2 students glance at me, then away, whispering. Someone else offers a smile that's too careful, like I might break if they're not gentle enough. And then there are the others. The ones whose stares feel heavier, the kind that make my skin crawl. I keep my head down and get through rehearsal, but the tension coils tighter with every sideways glance. By evening, the story's grown teeth. I'm heading out of the building when a group near the entrance makes some comment I don't quite catch, something about omegas and special treatment. It's loud enough for everyone to hear, pointed enough that I stop walking. So does Asher. He was a few steps behind me, gym bag slung over his shoulder, hair damp from practice. Now he's looking at them the way a storm looks at things before it hits. "Say that again," he says, voice even but carrying through the lobby. The group goes quiet. One of them shifts like he might try to laugh it off. "Just talking," the guy mutters. "No harm." "Yeah?" Asher steps closer, dropping the bag at his feet. "Because it sounded like you've got a problem with him." He points at me, not looking away from them. "So which is it? You got a problem with Liam, or with me?" Nobody answers. The air feels tight enough to snap. Asher turns slightly, like he's about to leave it there, but then his voice carries across the whole lobby. "For the record," he says clearly, "I'm proud of him. For his music, for everything he does here. Anyone who doesn't like it can come talk to me directly." The words land heavier than the silence that follows. Someone coughs. Nobody speaks. I want to disappear into the floor. Asher grabs his bag, looks at me once like you okay, then walks out the door like he didn't just set half the conservatory on fire with a single declaration. Later, in the dorm hallway, Sophie corners me with wide eyes. He said he's proud of you. She hisses like it's breaking news. In front of everyone. I noticed. I mutter. Liam, she says, gripping my arm. That wasn't just defending you. That was a statement. I know she's right. Because all day I felt like I was shrinking under the weight of other people's voices. And then Asher showed up, and handed the weight back to them, like it wasn't mine to carry anymore. That night, lying awake in the dorm, I replay it over and over. The stares, the whispers, and his voice cutting through all of it. I'm proud of him. I don't know what to do with that. But for the first time since the rumor started, I fall asleep without feeling like I'm about to shatter. The stage lights are blinding. They turn the audience into a faceless shadow, rows and rows of indistinct figures stretching into the dark. All I can see clearly is the piano, polished so perfectly it throws my reflection back at me like it knows everything I've been carrying this year. My sheet music waits on the stand. Not the assigned program piece, this one's mine. Every note written between sleepless nights and too many whispers in the hallway. Through the storm of rumors and that impossible warmth that showed up where I least expected it. Professor Hart gave me a look earlier that said play what you need to play, not what they expect. So I will. I sit. My hands hover over the keys, shaking just once before muscle memory takes over. The first chord rises into the hall, low, steady, like a heartbeat learning to trust itself again. The melody climbs carefully, then drops away, sharp and bare, the way it felt the night everything almost came apart in the practice room. I play the quiet moments too. The hesitant measures that sound like the spaces between words when you don't know what to say. The notes that hover like a question before they finally fall. Somewhere in the middle, the music swells. I pour in all of it, the anger, the exhaustion, the way the conservatory stared like my skin told a story I didn't write. And under it all, the warmth that came when someone stayed. I risk one glance into the audience. He's there. Even with the lights in my eyes, I find him in the third row like I always do, sitting forward, elbows on his knees, watching me like the rest of the hall doesn't exist. The melody shifts, softer now, steadier, like the music knows he's here too. The final notes fade into the rafters, trembling once before they disappear completely. Silence stretches over the hall. For one suspended second, no one moves. Then a single pair of hands starts to clap. Asher. He's on his feet before anyone else. Applause echoing hard enough to wake the rest of the audience into motion. The hall erupts. Cheers, whistles, the sharp thunder of palms meeting palms. But all I hear is his. Because he's looking at me like he knew this was in me the whole time. Like he's proud. The same way he said in the lobby when everyone else made me feel small. I stand, bow automatically. Let the lights burn hot on my face. Somewhere under my ribs, something shifts. Because I can't call it hate anymore. Not the way my chest loosened when I saw him in the crowd. Not the way the music softened when I knew he was listening. Whatever it isn't what it used to be. Backstage people talk, professors, students, Sophie waving from somewhere near the wings. But it's all background noise. All I can hear is the echo of applause still ringing in my ears. And all I can see, burned into the back of my mind, is the way he was the first to stand. The hall isn't big. It isn't even really a hall. More like a renovated community center with folding chairs and a stage barely wide enough for the baby grand piano squeezed onto it. But it's full. Students, faculty, a few sponsors in the front row pretending they're not crying into their programs. The banner above the stage reads Omega Arts Fund, opening night. Our first project. Our idea, mine, and Asher's. He's been everywhere today. Meeting donors, shaking hands, making sure the microphones actually work. The same loud, relentless energy that used to drive me insane now keeps the whole event from falling apart. But the second I step on stage, he's in the front row like he never left it. Elbows on his knees, hands clasped, watching like the rest of the world can wait until I'm done. I play the piece I wrote after the concert. The one with softer edges, no battle in its chords, no storm in its melody. The room goes still, not the expectant silence of a conservatory jury, or the strained quiet of professors waiting for mistakes. This silence feels generous, like the whole audience is leaning in together to catch every note. The music carries everything forward, the rumors, the long nights, the weight of being seen when I didn't want to be, and the impossible steadiness of someone who stayed anyway. When the last note fades, applause breaks like sunlight through clouds. Asher's on his feet first. Again. Of course he is. Afterward, while people talk and shake hands and ask about the next concert, he finds me near the stage stairs. "Not bad, maestro," he says softly. Like it's just for me. I roll my eyes because anything else might be too much. Later, when the lights are off, and the chairs are stacked, and the banners coming down, I sit on the edge of the stage, looking out at the empty room. He drops down beside me, close enough that our shoulders touch. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "I still hate you," I say finally, "for making me this happy, and I mean every word."